All right, so if you want to become a missionary, here are all of the essential steps that you need to take, including a ton of insights that I have from lived experience, having been a long-term missionary, having worked with many pioneer church planting frontier missionaries, and also having coached people with support raising, having done support raising myself, having made it to the field and helped others get there too. So if you go through this entire video, it's in depth. I'm going to share with you not just steps, but also obstacles and pitfalls to be aware of and solutions to make sure that you basically avoid the obstacles that I had to learn the hard way, and you're basically going to avoid a lot of pain, a lot of time wasted and lost, and learn how to get to the field a healthier, more equipped, basically apt to be long-term missionary if you follow these steps. So here we go. Just so you know, I'm going to be following along with my notes on my computer, and this is going to be a workbook that I will make available to you here in the video. So let's get right into it. Before we take the very first step to become a missionary, I cannot undervalue how important it is for you to already be living out certain values and disciplines in your life that are going to set you up to be able to be a person who could stay on the field and thrive on the field and basically be healthy on the field. So if you don't already have these values and these disciplines and practices that I'm about to outline right now, you need to get this down before you follow any of the other steps that I'm going to give you. Here they are. First is you already are following Jesus. All right, and I'm going to break this down through more of them, but you already have a practice of abiding with Jesus, spending time with Jesus, knowing Jesus. Like Jesus is not just a person that you worship on Sundays, or you're not a fan of Jesus. Like you already are an authentic follower of Jesus. It shouldn't need to be said. It should be obvious, but it's essential. And a lot of people, they get really excited about going to change the world, and yet they haven't already learned how to follow Jesus and impact the world where they already live. And that's a big issue. And that just sets people up to really be hurt, disillusioned, and they're already doomed to fail before they even get there. All right, serving in your church. Are you already serving in ministry, in outreach? And if you are serving outside of the church, if you feel called to be a missionary, let me just give you a pro tip right now. You need to be also serving somewhere in your church and being able to serve sacrificially, but also be known and know your community and serve your community. You need to be a disciple. And if you don't know what that means, then you're just not ready to be a missionary yet. And it doesn't take a lot of effort to learn about what discipleship is. So I'm not trying to set a high bar. It's just, anyway. You need to learn how to make disciples. Do you already have a practice in your life of helping people learn how to follow Jesus? And so I mentioned serving earlier. I would prefer not just that you stack chairs or that you greet people, but have you also began to learn how to help people follow Jesus, like leading small groups, doing youth ministry, doing outreach where you're sharing the gospel? Is there this expression outwardly? So if you think about the following Jesus, there's the up, in, like a triangle, and then out corner. And up is your relationship with God, in is your relationship to church, and then out is your relationship to outreach, your community, you reaching out and sharing God's love. I want to make sure that you have all three of these corners met and they're a part of your regular life before you even begin to go to the field as a missionary. Because really, going over there to do something, we shouldn't, if we're not already doing it here, we shouldn't be going over there to do it. This one's really practical, but again, you need to be debt free. If you have student loans, you have credit card debt, everything other than a mortgage, if you have any debt, you just need to go ahead and get rid of that as quick as you can if you're serious about becoming a missionary. You do not want to go to the field with debt. Some groups won't even yet take you if you have debt. Some will help you tackle that debt, but go ahead and begin working at it while you work on these next steps. Make that an aggressive plan, cut costs, get rid of your car payment, buy a junker car, live with your parents. If you're serious about becoming a missionary, show it here. All right, also, I mentioned serving and outreach and making disciples and all this stuff, but this is just practical. You're not going to make it as a missionary if you're not known and trusted by your church. So, the motivation needs to be for the right thing. It's to serve Jesus and to love others. But if people don't know you in your church community, you're not going to have the support you need to get to the field and make it long term, or it's going to be a big struggle bus. So if you don't yet have that, then you need to figure that out and get well connected and known and trusted by your church community before you begin working at trying to get to the field. Also, this is really practical. You need to be healthy, not just spiritually, which I've talked a lot about, but emotionally. You may need to do some counseling and some therapy, and probably everybody needs to do some counseling and therapy. I've done it for my marriage. So if you're at a point where you're like, if pride is the reason you're not willing to do some counseling or therapy, you're not ready to go to the field. And so it might even be worthwhile just to do one counseling session, just to have someone, just to know that you have like why not do some due diligence and make sure that you're healthy emotionally. Some things that I would want to make sure, that might even help prompt whether or not you really should go do something immediately is, can you handle conflict? What do you do when people challenge you? What if they do it in an abrasive way versus a kind way? How do you react? How do you respond? Do you shut down? Do you go into a depression? Do you isolate? Do you just want to leave that whole entire community? All of the above. What if they're wrong when they confront you about what they confronted you about? What if they do it in a really kind way? Like, do you receive feedback and constructive criticism? All of that. Can you submit to authority? I'd like to see that you've been on a team serving in ministry, and ideally more than just a greeting position, but working in some kind of team capacity with ministry, with disciple making, with outreach, and you know how to follow well. And maybe sports would be a good, that's also a great area that we can measure and see. But great leaders are also great followers, and if you suck at following, that's going to be an issue when you join a team on the other side of the road. And also if you're you just resist submitting to leadership on a team because someone's younger than you, or you think you know better, or listen, I'm just letting you know now, then you're not ready to go to the field, because the way missionary work works is within teams. And if you're not a healthy team member, the last thing they need is for you to join them on the field. Yeah, submitting to authority, working as a team. I'm not saying submit to abuse or toxic leadership or any of that, but there's a lot of people that have gone on trips into the field, and these were issues, and these are issues that will bring you home if you're not already able to work in and with them where you already are. Can you sustain, back to that up and out, can you sustain your own spiritual formation? You're not dependent on Sunday anymore to get through the rest of the week. And I say this, I'm not saying that you need to know the Bible perfectly or you need to know all the answers. Not at all. You don't even need to be qualified. And you could, you can learn as you go when it comes to information. I'm not looking for you to have more information. But can you, when it goes back to that question of abiding, are you able, without being dependent on someone else in your life, able to continue to sustain your pursuit of Jesus and following Jesus? And if you didn't have a strong spiritual leader in your life to challenge you and hold you accountable, is your discipline and your relationship with Jesus and his voice in your life enough that you would continue to steadily, not a sprint, would you continue to steadily move towards him and grow in your relationship with him because you've already begun to implement a discipline, regular pattern of prayer and Bible reading and spiritual disciplines and pursuit of holiness in your life? So I'm not looking for perfection, for you to know all the answers, but really looking to see, are you stable? Are you solid? Can you sustain your own spiritual life? All right. Also, do you show up when you don't feel like it? Do you work hard when you don't feel like it? Can you be found faithful to your commitments even when you don't feel like it? So this is a work ethic thing. Again, it should be obvious, but it's not. When times are hard and you don't feel like it anymore and you feel depressed, are you still able to do what you've committed to doing and showing up even when you don't feel like it? Even when you're not seeing the results and you feel like you're failing and you're trying everything and it's just not working, are you still able to show up and keep your commitments and maintain responsibility because you said yes? This is something that's really important. And it doesn't mean that you can't have discussions and pivot and change, but it's like as a person who is responsible to work, do you have work ethic? Do you have grit? Do you have endurance? Because we're talking about you going to an environment that is hard. It is emotionally hard. It is spiritually hard. You're going to be isolated. You're going to be confronted. There's going to be risks, all of the above, and pressures. And so if you don't already have good work ethic, then you're just not ready to go to the field yet. Okay, so I just listed out a ton of areas, I don't know, maybe 7 or so. But my point is, like, these are really big. And if you're not growing in these areas and feel like you can check them off and say, like, yeah, I can see that, and somebody would vouch for that in my life. Doesn't mean you're perfect, but, like, then again, please grow in these areas. Save yourself and others over there, and also your own community here, a lot of hurt by growing in these areas before you begin taking the next steps. But let's just say that you have those out of the way. All right, so now it's really fun. Like, first thing is just due diligence. You need to be able to say that you have done this, and you should have done it, is that you want to have taken this decision and bathed it in prayer and fasting, and you wanted to have made sure that you have, like, sought God over it. Doesn't mean that you've heard, like, thus saith the Lord. I'm not actually a big fan of people saying God told me or thus saith, but it might be more of, like, I feel like God is leading. I've been praying and I've sought God, and I feel like he is saying, or like also you're going to God and you're asking God, is this not you? Like, give God the opportunity to tell you to wait, or give him the opportunity to tell you no. And it might be that you do feel really strong, like God told you. But the point is, like, make sure that you have taken this to God and sought God in prayer and fasting, that's my opinion, over this kind of opportunity. All right, so I'm going to give you a lot of other tips. In addition to the prayer as a first step, I'm going to give you some really big practicals right here. So pray, seek, listen, respond. Begin already praying for missions and missionaries, and for the unreached people groups, and for missionaries to go, and for people to hear the gospel. Begin the practice of giving financially if you haven't already to missionaries. This is just big. I mean, you're going to be asking people to support you. Would love to see that you are also modeling what it is that you're going to be asking people to do for you in missions. And so if you're not already supporting directly missionaries financially, like, find one missionary or missionaries that you would like to partner with, and you will find that's really something valuable that you gain even more from. Also, begin already advocating for missions and missionaries where you are in your community, and bringing your community into this journey with you of learning more about missions. And so it might be a while before you get to the field. The fact is, like, if you're serious and you check all the boxes, you're at least 9 to possibly 18 months out from being on the field as a long-term missionary. So there's a lot you can do to move the needle in missions. In the meantime, in your community, and helping people learn more about God's heart for missions and the opportunities that are there. All right, so this is a practical, but I think it's really good. Read some biographies. Adoniram Judson, David Livingston, Jim Elliott, George Mueller, Amy Carmichael. You can look on Amazon. There's biographies. YWAM Publishing, I think, has some really good small books that are easy reads. But go ahead and learn about missions and these experiences and the work that they did and the foundations that were built from some well-known legacy missionaries that are very well respected and admired for the work that they did, and it continues to be really great lessons learned and observed from even to today. In addition, while you read some biographies in the season, because, well, I'll get there in a minute, check out Perspectives. I think it's perspectivesusa.org, but they have a 15-week class. Go ahead and do it. If they have a local one, do it. I wouldn't wait to do it. Like, go ahead and get into it online. This is a great class that I would want you to go ahead and do now before you make the big step to, like, become a missionary, because you're going to learn so much more about missions and the global expansion of Christianity, I think is how they title it, but it's an invaluable resource to you if you're serious about becoming a missionary. Also, I'd like to point out The Missions Dilemma by Steve Saint. Nate Saint is his dad. That was the martyred missionary, his dad in Ecuador. All right, so those are some really just great practicals to do while you're praying about the next step and working through, is this where God is leading you? Okay, so now we're at the second step, and I want you to share with your spiritual leaders in your life. Like, I want all of the spiritual leaders that you have, and the church staff, everyone that you know, to be praying for you as you figure out this next step. So your lead pastor, your associate pastor, your executive pastor, of course your missions pastor, people that have just been influential in your life and helping you learn how to follow Jesus. Let all of these people, not just one, know that this is something that you're praying about, and just invite them to join you in prayer. Now, with this, these are also people that, hopefully they have poured into you and they know you well. Maybe they have feedback. Maybe they have reservations or concerns. And so you want to take all that in and you want to pray about it as well. And then you would also want to share any concerns that come up with maybe somebody else in leadership and weigh that out. All right. So take it to leadership, ask them to be praying about this with you. And then let's just say that no red flags come up through that. All right. Now we're at the next layer, which is like you're sharing with your community. Now, you're not telling your community that you are going as a missionary or that you're going to become a long-term missionary yet. That's not what I'm saying. But you are sharing with your community this dream that you have, this vision, this interest, this prayer that you're praying and that you're working through and what you're exploring. Like, go ahead. Obviously, your parents probably already know, like family closest to you, but family and friends, like begin letting everybody know that you are praying about missions and seeing if this where God may be leading you. And the cool thing is, like, let's just say that you explore this and you recognize this isn't where you ultimately felt like God was leading. Well, hopefully now through doing this in a really healthy way, you've done better to advocate for missions and you've set the stage for somebody else who may go. All right, so now once you share with them all about it, this is really important too because you're bringing them into the journey. You're already kind of tilling the field because you're going to have to support raise. And in order to support raise, you're going to need a community that's behind you and for you and praying for you in this journey and supporting you. And so the next step is going on a short-term trip. And with this short-term trip, you are going to need to raise funds. Follow the God Ask by Steve Shadrach. I'll leave that pro tip right there. And then with this short-term trip, there's a lot that I want to mention on this one. If you are young and single, I want you to try to go for 6 weeks and do an internship. If you can go for a month and a half, if you can go for 3 months, like I want you to go for as long as you can and be there and live with the missionaries, live with the training team, be doing language school, be doing missions life, missions work, community life, living with the community and the teams and the singles, all of that, right? If you are, maybe in my age bracket and you have kids or you're married, like if you have kids, it might be that you go alone the first time on a trip and then you bring your family back on a second trip, or you all go on the very first trip. But it might be that you need to do more than one trip, or again, go as long as you can. Now with this trip, I don't care if you've ever done a short-term missions trip on a team before, that does not count. I want you to go alone, solo, and I want you to go and live with missionaries and the teams and learn who they are, what they're about, what they do, how they do it, what is life like on the field, what would it be like for you to be on their team and to be trained and to live there and then do that missionary work with them. That is what you're looking for. You want to be informed as possible about this decision that you are praying about. Now, when you come back, you may feel like you're just not ready. You feel like this is something on your heart, but there's not peace. You may need to go on another trip. Maybe you need to go to a different region. You went to Arab world, you need to go to India. You went to Southeast Asia, you need to go to Arab world, whatever the region, right? Like maybe you need to pick a different region, and that might be the reason that you don't have peace yet about figuring out, when to go. Or maybe the issue isn't the where, the issue is the team. And you need to try going to visit other missionaries that are doing a different style work. Or it might be totally visiting a different network or team or agency of missionaries that have a very different culture, different values. And we'll get into teams, networks, and agencies here in a minute. And so that would be a totally relevant, applicable, you are scouting. I'm not into just throwing you in blindly and letting you learn the hard way. Like you are interviewing them when you go and trying to learn about what it is that you would be saying yes to so that you make an informed decision. All right, so after that trip, you are going to be debriefing, you're going to be assessing, you're going to be evaluating, be praying, and you're going to then be really deciding is this for you? And again, the whole way that we've gotten to this point was not by overcommitting, under-delivering. We haven't told everybody that you are called to be a missionary, you're going long-term. We've just been inviting people into the journey, and now they're with you. They're very much invested. They helped you get there financially. They've been praying with you, and they're going to respect if you feel like God is leading you differently. And also, they're going to be with you if you feel like, yes, now you know for certain. Okay, so let's say you know for certain. Now we're at the point where we talk about the network, the team, the agency. So let's just say every network and agency has a team. Figuring out what team to go with is probably going to be dictated by the region. I have a whole different video that you can find after this one on figuring out where to go. Also, let me just mention, all the questions that I'm putting through, like I'm going to put all this into a workbook, and you can have this. Just go to my website and then you can sign up. This will be a resource on the back end. Please subscribe if this video is helpful for you, and then check out this next video about the where to go. And so as we're talking about network and agency, and then from there you're going to find the team in the region. Now I want to just provide a couple tips for you on the network and agency. You don't have to go with the first group that you visited, or the first, agency that's mostly associated with your church. That may be the best. I just, this is, again, you're interviewing them. You are going on behalf of God, and you're figuring out, what God has put in your heart, who is best fit to help you win at this mission, this kingdom assignment that God has put in your heart. And we do this in unity. We do this in teams. Like, we do this by honoring one another, but, not everybody has to be your cup of tea, and that's okay. And so what I'm saying this is, like, do you like the culture? Do you fit your theological leanings with that agency or that network? Some more established ones that I could mention, like Live That as a network. They're more affiliated with AGWM, and also I think it's Frontiers. There's Frontiers and Pioneers. They each have a little bit more of their own theological leaning and distinctives. And then there's IBM, International Mission Board, IMB, that has a more of a Southern Baptist leaning, and there's a lot of others. Those are just a few big ones, right? And they excel at training missionaries, getting them in the field, doing long-term missionary church planting work, and that's the direction I would point you in, is figuring out one of these larger legacy established agencies or networks, and you are going to go with one of them. Don't even consider doing your own thing right now. You always want to begin with an established agency or network that knows what they're doing. They have a history. So we're going back to the interviewing thing. Go with someone that has a history where they can show you that they know how to equip missionaries, manage missionaries' funds, do missionary care, train missionaries, do church planting successfully in countries, hand off the ministries that are started in countries to the nationals and indigenous, and then work themselves out of a job and then go to places now where there is a great need for missions. And so those are just a few of the things that I'll be looking for. I mentioned like cultural values and distinctives and theological leaning. Like I'm just telling you right now, like I would go with a group that's different, not in conflict with my theological leanings, but maybe has different underweighted theological leanings than me. If they excel at missionary care and they excel at church planting successfully and have a history of that. But you have to figure out those values for yourself. I say that because I've met a lot of missionaries who, when you get to the field, you wouldn't want to live like they do. And it's because of the expectations of the agency. And then I've met other agencies where they're just terrible at church planting, and they really have little to show for all the work that they've been doing over the years. And so what are the goals? What are the big values? And kind of prioritizing that for you. Missionary care should be one of those. Missionary retention, those kind of things. And so, all right, so moving from there, another pro tip would be, if by chance, I learned this the hard way, that you were invited to go and join a smaller network or agency, hey, listen, don't even entertain an invitation from any missionaries or network or agency that does not have a proven track record of having sent at least, or already have at least, 50, 75, or 100. I would honestly say 75 or 100 at a minimum of missionaries already placed and already trained and already doing the mission work. I think that time is of the essence. You don't need to be someone's guinea pig and learn the hard way and be a casualty of missions and ministry so that somebody else could figure out how to do this because they wanted to do it their own way. Go with who you know already has a proven track record. Learn with them. And then if down the road, 2 or 5 years out, that you've been with them for a while, you just find that, hey, there's another network or agency or team that's a better fit, make the transition in a really loving, leave the place better than you found it way. But there's a lot to this that I just gave you. If you're just trying to figure out now how to become a missionary, this probably, a lot of it will have gone over your head. But if you try your best right now to engage with all those little insights I just gave you, I think it'll save you a lot of time and potential pain along the way. All right, so once you figured out that agency, now you're going to be in the support raising phase, and you're going to be in support raising until you are fully funded. And this goes back to what I mentioned earlier. Check out the God Ask by Steve Shadrach. I'm not going to do a whole video on fundraising because they've already done that for you with the God Ask. Like, they do trainings, they do coaching, they do workshops, they do all of that. I can tell you that I have, at 2 different times in my life, successfully support raised, and I've helped coach people in support raising, and I did the God Ask. I even did a workshop my second time around, and I followed it to a T, and I've seen people follow it, and it works. And so, again, go with what is proven to work, follow it to a T until you're really good at it, and then you can improvise and pivot a little bit to make it more fit your personality and style. But don't think that you can do it better, you're going to do it your own way. Like, come on. Seriously, like learn from others who already do it every single day and do it really well. All right, that being said, that fundraising season, practically speaking, if you're serious about it, you could totally do it within 4 to 6 months, but you're going to be doing like working your full-time job and fundraising full-time, and you are doing calls every single day between meetings with people, and you are grinding. And honestly, you should have that mentality. The last thing you ever want to do in a fundraising season is just take your time, because it will eat you alive emotionally. It is depressing if you're doing it longer than 7 months. Like, please be serious about it and take it seriously as if this is a startup, this is your business, an entrepreneur mindset. Get in and out of fundraising as fast as you can. Follow their blueprint, and you'll make it to the field if you do that. And so, by the way, all the steps that I gave you at the very beginning of this video, about what needs to happen before you even get to step 1, about the practices and values that you already have. If you already have all these things checked off, you're going to be set up for success when it comes to the fundraising. If you try to shortcut all those practices and values that I had already mentioned before you begin the steps, you're going to find fundraising is really hard and is an uphill battle. And so those, my friend, are all of the steps involved with becoming a missionary and getting to the field. And when you do all of that, you're going to land there, you're going to be in a language school, you're going to be doing on-the-ground training, learning how to do missions, church planting, disciple making within an unreached context while you're learning that language, and God is going to use you to bring the gospel where it has not yet arrived. All right, so all that being said, check out this next video on where to go as a missionary and finding your mission field. I have a ton of questions that help you navigate so you can really land on the place you feel God is leading. And check out my website for workbooks and resources around missions. Finally, be sure to subscribe if you found this video helpful.